Okay. Hello and welcome to the train. This is Condor Online and I'm John Durrant from Spiritual Connection. And my guest on the train this week is Bernard Key from Trinity Paranormal.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Bernard.
I'm so dying to go into that three speech.
Now we've had you on the train before, I know.
Yes.
But you were with Karen Berry, the lovely, delightful Karen Berry.
Big gob.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I wanted to.
No, we're friends.
I know you're friends.
Sure,
But I wanted to hear from you a lot more about the Trinity Paranormal and about the things that you do. But before we do that, tell me a little bit about you. What I know that you are involved in spiritualism and that you do a bit of that sort of stuff yourself. So tell me a bit about that and how you got into it and how you got into paranormal stuff.
The spiritual came after the paranormal, surprisingly.
Not really.
No. To be honest, I've noticed that a lot of people go from the paranormal to the spiritual, but me and a friend went on a ghost hunt to Nugent Park, the hospital. 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's what they did an open thing there.
But we'd gone on an event on a paranormal night.
Okay. Yeah.
We had a mutual interest and just thought, oh, sod it, let's go. Go and have a good night. And just got hooked. It was like a drug. Like a paranormal drug.
Okay.
From there we booked about 5-6 events afterwards, all down south, going to different places. And then round about 7 months after, there was a bit of a lull with paranormal up north. So we thought, use the experience, set up our own, and 4 years later,
You've set up your own paranormal.
we set our own paranormal group up.
So what do you do with your paranormal group?
So we, a bit like the bigger companies, we hire out venues, take guests if they want, if they pay us, to go and do a ghost hunt, basically. Bit like the TV, not as staged. Pure, real investigation.
So we're talking about a proper investigation.
Proper investigation where, I'm not going to lie, you will be cold, you will be lonely, you will be tired. Possibly you might not get anything, but
you will be lonely.
sometimes we do leave you. To anyone willing, not forced. Let me put that across.
Okay.
Anyone who comes on all night, at the end of the night you get an hour's free time. You can go wherever you like in the building, do whatever experiment you want. If you want, there's an experiment we do with the white noise, so like the old static from the TVs. We will, this sounds a bit wrong, blindfold you, put headphones on you, and leave you in a room on your own in the dark. And that cuts off... That just cuts off your sense of sight.
Yes.
Your
Sound.
ears.
Yeah.
So you're just hearing the white noise, and it enhances your other senses. So you touch, you feel, you taste. I know I said two the same then. But we find quite a lot that allows you to pick up a lot more.
It sounds like torture.
Well, if you come out screaming,
Okay. Now I assume, of course, that you've got people watching
yes,
that. That's not.
Everyone is watched. We always keep someone there. But
So, go on.
go on.
So you're going to say, but what I was going to say to you was, so do you use equipment then as well to actually decide whether or not there's anything going on? And
when we first started, we were big on equipment. As the time's gone on and the experiences have gone on, we've found we still use the equipment. It's still there as a tool, but we encourage the guests and encourage anyone who we're working with to use their body as the tool rather than a piece of equipment. But we do have...
What is the equipment? Tell me what the equipment is.
We've got the spirit board, so the Ouija board.
Sorry, I've got to keep stopping you. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep stopping you. I've been shouted at for doing this, but I've got to keep stopping you. A Ouija board.
Yeah.
A Ouija board in a paranormal investigation sounds to me like something quite dangerous.
No. Not at all.
Not at all.
We open them, we close them properly, we give it respect, as you do with anything that you do in spirit, regardless of whether you're doing a circle or a paranormal night, everything's respect. As long as you don't mess around with it with the intent of being a bit mischievous, you're fine. I've not had a problem with them. I've had them in my car for the last 4 years. I'm fine. Nothing's ever happened.
Okay. That's really what I wanted to hear. What about things like cameras and so on? And do you ever get pictures of anything?
We encourage guests as well to take pictures all through the night. We've got static cameras, we've got video recorders, we've got night vision security cameras. So wherever we go, we're all set up just to see if we can capture anything. We have had stuff. We've had the village in Mansfield. This is one of my favourite videos on our YouTube page. It's a static camera set up in front of a piano. Everyone's in another part of the building. You can hear us clearly in the background doing an experiment, and the next minute you just hear the piano keys playing, someone telling it to shush, and then it plays a few more keys afterwards. But the video of the camera of the piano, it's live. You don't see any keys moving, and it's, for me, I was sat at home at 11 o'clock at night going through that footage when I found it, and I
was a bit cold.
Yeah,
Should we say?
Yes. My blood ran a bit cold.
Okay. I won't say what you were about to say. No. Right. Fair enough. What about other things when people take photographs of stuff? I mean, I've seen a lot of videos on Facebook and on YouTube and so on with orbs flying around all over the place, and people say, "Oh, look, the spirit," and so on. And what's your take on that? Honestly,
for anyone who knows me, and a few people will back me up on this, I don't see orbs as evidence.
Why?
Easily mistaken for bugs, easily mistaken for dust. Until I physically see it, I'm not going to believe it. I don't care if it's on a picture or anything. There's some that have tried to convince me, and some of them have been
very good. Yeah.
But that 1% in my head's like, no. Until I physically see something in front of me, I don't believe it.
Okay. And what about seeing people or things or stuff?
It depends. Again, it's all about the energy that we build up. I know last time we talked about energy, and we've had a good discussion about energy.
Yeah.
If you've got the right energy on the right night, with the right group, you can get so much stuff. You can get some amazing activity. Sometimes I've seen people in my head, and I've looked somewhere, and I've asked other people, and they can't see. And then it's other times it's kind of reversed. The guests will see, but we won't, or I won't. So it depends how open you are as well.
Two things here then.
Go on.
What I hear you saying is, it's the paranormal event, whatever that may be, is feeding from the energy of the group of people you've got there. Would you say that's reasonable?
It is. It's also feeding from the energy of the building as well. Because we find sometimes we could just walk into a building, and you know yourself, if you walk in a room and someone's had an argument, you can feel that bit of tension.
Yeah.
It's the same for us. Sometimes we'll walk in a building and you just feel.
So the building has a psychic memory.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before, and we talked about the Stanley Palace in Chester as being very. I want to come back to something in a minute, but you also. You were also saying you see something in your head.
Yeah.
Now, would you say this is like seeing somebody else's memory?
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. For me, for an example, in Newsham, in the kitchens, I saw an elderly woman. To me, she was confused, not knowing where she was, and she was just walking across the wall. For me, that was her reliving her days.
Okay.
Which for me would be a ghost per se.
Okay.
Whereas other times I've been able to speak to a spirit.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you now to define the difference between a ghost and a spirit.
So a ghost, I put it as this quite simple example. A ghost is like a videotape. A ghost is replaying their day-to-day business. So for example, in Newsham, again, that's going to be quite a big example this time. We were in one of the wards, and we were just going through, asking questions, and the door opens. Big, massive hospital door. The hinges broke. The door opens. Curtain sways back. Doesn't flow. It just sways up and down in one motion. So we go into the other room. Start calling out again, and we see a door to our left open. A few seconds later, a medicine cabinet door is shook, and the next minute this door that went before opens and closes again. For me, that's someone reliving. They've come out of there, they've had to go to the medicine cabinet, and they've had to go into the ward to give medicine. That's how that defied to me.
That's your view of what happened there.
That was our view.
So
a few of us, yeah.
You wouldn't say then that it was somebody necessarily.
No, I would say it was just the energy of the building replaying someone's day-to-day business.
Right. So what's a spirit then?
Spirit for me, intellectual communication. You can talk to it, you can speak to it. It will respond to you.
Okay.
It will give you an intelligent answer.
Okay. I actually, going back to Newsham Park, I went there about the same time, about 4 years ago, when they first opened it.
Yeah.
And they had an open day, a public open day, so that people could go along and look at this place that had been closed for such a long time, with so many stories about it. And we went along and had a look at it as a family. And in the main entrance, there's a staircase going upwards.
Yeah.
And we stood at the bottom of the staircase and looked up. I wasn't on my own doing this. We looked up and you could physically see children hanging over the bars.
We've
at
had
the
the
top.
exact same.
Yeah?
The exact same.
And then when he commented on it, they went away. It was like they laughed and went away.
That's what we found. They were just being nosy. And that's what we find with a lot of spirit as well.
They're just being nosy once
when we come in to do some of the paranormal nights, if they'll be interested in what we're doing, they'll start having a nose. It's like anyone. It's like my friend describes it. If you've got your own free will to do whatever you want when you're alive, and it's the exact same in death. If you want to come and be nosy, if you want to come and do something, you'll come and do it. For us, we find the curiosity of what we're doing kind of draws them out as well.
I think I'm quite looking forward to being nosy when I'm dead. That could be quite interesting.
Just don't watch anyone doing something rude. Please.
Okay.
I know you.
I don't think we're actually allowed. I don't think that people who are dead people, you have your own private time.
No.
I don't think they'd be allowed to watch just anything they wanted.
Don't think they
But it is a matter of being, the helpful bit is quite there.
Yeah.
The other thing about Newsham, which I found fascinating, because there were all sorts of things going around there, and you felt you felt different temperatures and cold and one thing and another. However, outside in the back, there's what used to be a dormitory. And it was locked up when we were there. But my daughter went over to it. She'd be about 12 or 13 at the time.
Is this in the car park opposite the main building?
Yeah.
So like the schoolhouse?
At the schoolhouse, yeah. But it was also used as a dormitory, I understand. But the door was ajar. And Erin went over and had a look at it, and she was stood looking through the crack in the door. I went over and had a look through the crack in the door, and there was just a stone staircase and with a metal banister on it and a hall. And as far as I was concerned, that was it. And I turned around and walked away. And we all walked away except for Erin, who stood there looking through this little crack in the door. And she was there, stood on her own for quite a while, just staring through this crack in the door. And in the end, we said, "Come on, Erin." And Erin, being Erin, just, "Go away, go away." Which we did. Left her to it, more or less. But then she came back and joined us. And what she said was that she'd been looking through this crack in the door, and there was a little boy with a ball at the bottom of the stairs. And he knew she was there, and she called him over, but he wouldn't come over to play with her. He seemed frightened, but he also seemed very real. Whilst we were in there, we started talking to one of the guys, one of the guides, I should say, who was there, and he said, we mentioned this to him, and he said that used to be dormitory, and the boys were in there, and he said there was a time when one of the boys, they were playing football or playing with a ball on the first landing.
Yeah.
And one of the boys had gone to catch the ball and had fallen. He'd fallen all the way down the stairs and killed himself. And that was the little boy that Erin had been talking to.
Well, we can back that up then.
Go on.
Because
Smashing.
when me and my friend did our first night there as guests, this was our very first ghost hunt, and we'd never been on anything like this. We were in that building to the room to the left as you go in. So I think it was just a classroom. And as you go into the left, there's a small room, like a little office, and there's a gentleman who will stand there, very authority, very overpowering type figure. And you just can't take your eyes off that room. Now, we were in a circle doing, just calling out, just asking out for someone to come. And behind me, all I heard was this crap myself. So
you mean you were a little
I was a little
frightened?
A little frightened.
Okay,
yes.
fine.
So I turned to my mate, I was just like, what is it? And he was like, in a normal, calm voice, it's a little boy. That's it. And I was like, okay. So I turned back, I didn't think anything. And then a few months later, I was like, where was the boy? And he was like, 3 feet behind you. I was like, why didn't you tell me? Oh, in case you were frightened. I was like, well, that's what I've gone there for. But he described him as quite the same demeanour as the person you described. Yeah. Scruffy clothes.
Yeah.
Kind of territorial about where he is.
Yeah, this is my...
Who was being in there.
Yeah.
But again, frightened of this person, this person in the office. Yeah. So it kind of collaborates. That's the only record of a boy I've had in there.
There's stories behind that place, though. I mean, it's been so many different things. But it ended up being the like the orphanage.
Yeah, that's what it began as.
For the children of seamen who didn't make it back. And that was, but it had many guises. It changed into many different things. Yeah. But it's quite a place. It's quite a lot goes on there.
Considering it only closed 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's something else. I can't describe it. It's a lovely building.
Okay. What and we've talked a lot about Newsham Park now, and I'm quite sure
somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm quite sure I could go on about that all night. But yeah, somewhere else. You mentioned the village, the Mansfield.
Yeah.
What is Mansfield Village? What is that?
To be honest, it's just what they use it for now is kind of like paintball and stuff. It's just this big. I think it was an old barn or warehouse type of place. Okay. And they've just converted it to doing paintballing, and they do hire it out for paranormals. Okay. Trying to think of other places. Williamson Tunnels.
Oh, tell me about Williamson Tunnels.
Well, we work with the Friends of Williamson Tunnels because there's 2 different sites. So
so I believe
you've got the Heritage site, which is further down. That's with the glass frontal.
Oh yeah, I've seen all that.
And the Friends of Williamson Tunnels is on Mason Street. So this is the house in which Joseph Williamson lived in.
Okay. Now, you better explain the house. I know what it is, but you better explain that.
So the house, at the moment, there's just a front shell of the house. There's nothing there left apart from the front. And they're working as a charity. They've got a 1,000-year lease on the land from the council to dig and excavate and find out about these tunnels. There's no documentation on anything. Whatever they find, they've had to just dig. Randomly just dig in places.
Hang on a minute, I want to go back a step.
Go on.
You said the front of the house. Now, is that above ground or below ground?
The front of the house is above ground. You can still see the brickwork. It's just a shell. Yeah. It's just the front part of the house. And everything else is just gone.
But as I understood it, what I was told was he actually had rooms in the tunnels. He actually lived in the tunnels.
Don't know.
You don't know?
Don't know.
So I've been told lies.
Not being told lies. It's just
nobody really
documented.
Knows. Okay. Okay.
There are rooms. These tunnels just go everywhere. They've got the site on Mason Street, which is the house site, and they've got Paddington site just round the corner. And the amount in Paddington they've dug down 64 feet.
Really?
Yeah.
And they're still finding...
They've stopped on that site,
Okay.
and they've gone to the house, and they've been working there for about a year and a half.
Okay.
And from when we went about 2 years ago to where they've gone now, they've done tremendous work. They've gone so far in digging.
Okay. So what, if anything, have you picked up in there?
We've had a little girl come through. We've had 2 gentlemen who have a bit of a shady past, murder and...
I understand that 1 or 2 people had shady pasts involved with Williamson Tunnels, because weren't they the kind of people that Williamson gave the jobs to actually...
From what I know, from what the charity knows, he gave people jobs from the war, come back from the wars, to give them a skill.
Yeah.
So they built the tunnels, no real reason for them, well, that we know of. But they gave them a skill, so they can go out and work further and do, for example, like Lime Street tunnels, all those type of things. It was kind of like an apprenticeship.
Okay, I get that. Don't they, at some stage, don't they join the railway, don't they?
Yes, they do. Once Williamson dies, all the work kind of stops in the tunnels, but anyone working from then would have gone onto the railways.
Okay. Now tell me about these 2 guys then, the murder and the death.
Okay. These 2 always pop up when I'm there because they don't like me. And they don't like a few of our team. They've made us run a few times, but from what we've got, through doing the experiments and using the equipment and everything, from what we've got, these 2 gentlemen, now I always get the names mixed up, so I'll just call them Bob and Ted, for example.
Didn't they have an amazing journey? Bob and Ted? Okay.
No, not doing that.
Okay.
So the little girl, Emily, 6, 7 years old, her dad and the other person worked together in the tunnels. One of them had an infatuation with the other. Bit of a romance.
So we're talking about something homophobic here, or?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So one of them was infatuated with the other. The other one used that to their advantage and said, "We can be together if you get rid of your family." So he killed his little girl.
What?
From what we know, from what we've found out through doing the experiments, the mum saw it and she was gone as well. He made him do a few more killings until he killed him himself. And then he went on to do a few others.
Can I ask you,
Yes.
is this anywhere documented in whole or in
Not
part?
that we can find, but the one thing that's given me confidence that there is something like that.
Yeah.
Other groups, other teams, other mediums have picked up on the exact same story without any of us telling them.
Okay. So this is from several different people.
From several different people.
But it's still not actually...
It's nothing written down. I'm not going to say it's completely true. I'm not going to say it's completely false. From what we've gone through, listening from other teams when we've done it,
from experience, I know that when you get more than one medium or more than one paranormal group coming up with the same stuff, there's usually something in it somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't just happen.
No.
Just like that.
If it was just us picking it up, I'd say. But when you get other people collaborating it and you're not sharing that information,
I must say I find that quite a story.
It's wonderful. Over the time that we've gone there, we've found out a little
bit more each time.
Yeah.
That is just...
So it's kind of built up this story over the last 2 years that we found out.
That is really quite interesting. Really quite interesting.
It's just a shame that the person who was at the helm of it...
What I find, what is a shame about all this is there's no documentation.
Not
just for that particular story,
but for
the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, because I know that when Williamson did this, from what I've been told, some of the people who were involved in it were a bit shady.
Oh, most probably.
And perhaps that's why there was no documentation, because there's no record of the people who worked there.
No.
There's no record of what they did or...
And you're thinking, when he died, it was the 1840s, so there wouldn't have been much documentation anyway.
No, they weren't exactly particular about things like health and safety and so on, were they?
So, considering the time period,
it's quite
Well, you would
likely.
expect something, but
somewhere.
there's nothing. They've had historians looking for the last 10 years,
Yeah, they're not getting
and
anywhere.
they're getting tiniest little bits.
How very, very interesting.
You should.
I'm going
You
to.
should join us.
I was going. To, I was just going to say, perhaps it would be an idea to come on one of your ghost hunts, shall we say, and come back and report back to everybody exactly what happened there and what went on. Perhaps even take a few videos that we could perhaps show at some stage and
That's fine with me.
let people see what's going on.
That's fine with me.
That could be quite interesting. The thing is that is much more concrete than a set of orbs. Or I mean, one of the things people say is, can you see the face in this cloud or this tree or this whatever?
If you look at anything, you can find anything.
There's only one time I've seen that, when somebody had a proper old-fashioned photograph, colour photograph, and it was of a tree, and it had two members of the family. It was a photograph of two people, actually, with a tree behind them. But not just me, but a number of other people said they could see faces in that tree. And you could. There were real proper faces that you could see in the tree. And I sat with somebody and we've looked at them and they've not been pointed out to us, and nobody said, can you see the face here or can you see the face there? You could actually just see the faces. But what I find, and that I think is again something which is quite indicative. But when you talk about things like the Williamson tunnels and the sort of thing you've just been talking about, where there's no proof whatsoever, it can be for some people quite a hard one to swallow.
Yeah.
And it can also mean that for some people, it's a proof for them that that just doesn't exist. You're talking a load of twaddle. You need to experience it. You need to actually be there.
Because the amount of people that I say want to do, and it's just like, well, oh, I don't believe in that, I don't believe in this. It's like me sometimes. Take religion, for example. I'm not religious. Don't knock anyone for who is religious. We just have that difference of opinion. It's the exact same for ghost hunts. People are just like, oh, it's fake, you do this, you must jump out, you must have strings. Unless you come to one of our events.
The problem is that we've all seen the stuff on the TV.
Exactly.
Which is all cut for sensation.
Yeah. It's cut for ratings.
People have got to watch it. Yeah. They need to sell the adverts and all the rest of it.
We will always say, when you come on one of our events, the first thing we will say is, if you've got an image of the TV shows in your head, wipe it clean.
Forget it.
Wipe it clean.
Yeah.
Because there's no point. You might as well go home, you'll be disappointed.
This I find all this really quite fascinating. I also see a platform coming up, and our journey is coming towards an end. But I have to say, Bernard, thank you very much for coming on and talking about this. In particular, putting to rest some of the myths that there are.
Yep.
And the fact that it does take an open mind. With any of these things, it takes an open mind. And at the end of the day, I'm back to saying what I've always say, it is all about energy. And it's all about your energy and being positive.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bernard, here we are on the station. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the show.
Welcome.
I'm very grateful. And here we are back at the platform. And I've been John Durrant, and this has been The Train at Condor Online.